Well, good afternoon, Apollo Baptist Church. It is Monday. It's June 21, and I'm delighted that you and I can spend a little bit of time together thinking and focusing upon God and His great work in our lives. Our reading plan has been in the book of Galatians, 6 chapters, and this week we are in the last two chapters, chapter 5 and chapter 6. It is just overflowing with the conclusion, if you will, of that letter. That letter has been a strong, strong reprimand for their beginning to trust in their own ability rather than trusting in the ability of God. Oh, but it's so easy to do that. It is what religion is built out of. And even when we know that it's wrong, it is a tendency of ours to try to overcome the issues of sin in our life by trying to overcome the issues of sin in our life. You say, well, what other possibility is there? Thank you. Well, that's a good question. It isn't that Christianity is effortless. It isn't. We are to follow Him, and we are to do His purpose, and we are to do it in a way that is diligent. But there's a difference between diligently doing our best on our own strength and diligently trusting God in His strength. Both of them take diligence, but one is depending on Him, the other one's depending on you. Religion looks good to the outsider, but it depends upon ourselves, and therefore it is futile. It will not work. The furnace of desire in our hearts will not be 1 degree cooler because of your intense, diligent desire in a religious way, because all you're doing is trusting yourself. The Bible says you trust Jesus Christ in order to be saved. The Bible says that the way you grow as a Christian is to continue to trust Jesus Christ. Now, in Galatians chapter 5 and 6, I'm going to point out just a few verses in this chapter. It starts out by saying, God has set you free so that you will be free from the law. And so if you've been set free from the law of trying your best, trying your hardest, trying to make it happen yourself, then don't go back into the slavery of trying to get yourself more like Jesus by doing it in your own strength. Don't do that. You couldn't become a Christian that way, so why would you try to grow as a Christian that way? Later on in the chapter, he says in verse 16, but I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not carry out the desires of the flesh. That in and of itself is a victorious statement. It's a victorious statement. If we walk by the Spirit, we will not carry out the desire of the flesh. Say no more, that's good. The desire of the flesh is awful. The desire of the flesh causes us to do sinful things that we know are wrong. And so if I walk by the Spirit, there is strength that overcomes that arena of sin in my life. And so the admonition and the encouragement is Jesus Christ has come, has dealt with our sin by His perfect life, His perfect sacrifice, and His perfect resurrection, providing the perfect payment for our sin. Trust Him in order to be saved, but continue to trust Him in order to walk in a growing way of righteousness. Don't go back to trusting your best. And so if you do, you will never grow as a Christian. But if you walk by the Spirit, you will not carry out the desire of the flesh. If you are religious, you may look really good on the outside, but it doesn't change our inside. It doesn't change our heart, doesn't change our attitude, and ultimately it doesn't change our actions. And You know, growing up, being a part of a church from a little kid, and then growing old, being called into the ministry and going to seminary and being around preachers and being around people who are steeped in religion, I can tell you, and this is not just a negative statement, it is a genuinely true statement, some of the most ornery people I've ever been around in my life, some of the meanest people I've ever been around in my life are church people. Some of them pastors. It's like, how on earth is it possible for you to not just be under such great conviction? Why is it that how can you live with yourself and be so mean to other people? And, I don't know the answer to that. All I know is when you walk by the flesh, you can be a religious person, go through all kinds of religious things, but the end result is it never causes you to say no to the flesh. The Bible says if you walk by the Spirit, you will not carry out the desire of the flesh. But if you walk by the flesh, you'll end up doing everything the flesh wants, even if you look spiritual on the outside. We need to be humble enough to admit to God, God, I need you today. I cannot try my best and get out of this situation. I needed you to be saved. I need you, your power of your Spirit, to make me more like you in my daily walk. Oh God, I want to say no to the desire of the flesh. Would you join me in that? Walk by the Spirit. You will not carry out the desire of the flesh.